Greetings, what's going on?
Hey man, the deadline for the
Good to hear from you
commercial
guys.
is tomorrow, but we still don't.
And really good to see you guys. How's that? Greetings, what's going on? It's Mike's from LiveMyAssOff.com. I hope you're well. Let me just make sure I don't have a whole lot of weird audio going on. I shouldn't. I should only have you. Happy Saturday morning from Bangkok, from the Big Mango, from the land of smiles, from the kingdom of Thailand. I think I'm everywhere. Let me. Yes. Sure. How you doing, YouTube? A lot of weird audio going on. All right, folks. This is pretty awesome. I'm stoked. I'm early in the sense that it is 8 a.m. in Bangkok, and normally I do sort of a. Sometimes I'll do a 9 a.m. thing. The reason I'm doing an 8 a.m. today, and in fact, you know what? Let me close this. So this is like a little. So that's a little quieter. We don't have Pigeon Cam again today. I'm going to have to upgrade some of the systems to be able to redo that again. But, yeah. And why am I early? So I have a 9:30. 9:30 appointment that I'm going to. Online, of course. So there's no commute time, which is kind of weird. I usually always have to, bake in like the commute time, especially here in Bangkok, because of course but just to let you know, I'm very, very public transportation friendly. I love the BTS here, the SkyTrain system. So I'm always all about that. And looks like we're getting a few folks hopping in here on the YouTube channel, as well as Facebook. Just so you know, there on the right-hand side of the screen, if you post on Facebook, it'll go there. If you post on YouTube, it'll go there. With the exception of the Facebook group Expats, I really apologize for that. I will try and monitor that in a different location, because I realized that from a previous stream that some folks were commenting on there and asking questions, and I wasn't able to answer them, so that's lame. So there you go. I will try and not be lame. How's that? Can we all agree on that? Let's see. Let me just make sure I have that window up. And I do. Awesome. So, with any luck, everything will be back to normal this weekend. Nope, not happening. But I wanted to update you guys on a few things about Thailand. And here's what I was thinking about initially. Morning, Jim. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Nico, right on, man. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you swinging by. My ego's very fragile, so without subs. Oh, and here's the thing. So I need to say this a couple of times through the broadcast. But thank you if you're a new subscriber. Thank you if you manipulated somebody into subscribing, because I think I'm at $7.99. I think. Hold on. Let me double check, because I mean that's a big deal, dude. Like 800 is a big friggin' deal for me. And let me not hit pause on my live stream. I pause live TV. I mean, ever since TiVo, basically, it's been what I do. Oh God, what was I just gonna look up? I completely spaced. Number of subs, 798, I believe, is what we're hitting. And so thanks, that's pretty cool. And again, if you don't know, the whole 1,000 subs thing, trust me, it's not so I can hit some financial milestone. It's because there are technical features that, for example, There's no community tab, which is fine. I mean, it's not like there aren't ways to communicate on social networks, right? Other than the community tab on YouTube. Bruce says he has a bunch of dummy accounts. He can sub with those. That's okay, man. But if you've got the smarty accounts, then we're talking something, my friend. Yeah, I mean, if they're accounts, then they're real accounts. But I'm actually glad you said that, because I want all of us to be clear that that while I'm willing to, take those subs for right now, it's merely for the additional technical features. The other is, I don't know if you guys know, maybe you do. I'm sure you know that I stream on Facebook. And Lanny Crane, when do you think Thailand will be open? Okay, great question. Let's talk about that. So, as of yesterday, and this is one of the sort of things that I was thinking about this morning as I was laying there in bed, listening to the guys clean the pool, which of course we can't use until the end of the month. So, to when do I think Thailand will be back open? I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so as of yesterday, today's Saturday, it is 8:10 in the morning. As of yesterday at midnight, so basically in the middle of the night Thursday, 12:01 a.m. Friday, there is no alcohol in Bangkok for 10 days until April 20th. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so in Bangkok right now, you can't buy alcohol. You can't go to a bar or a nightclub. You can't go to a restaurant and eat indoors. You can't go to get a massage. If it were 3 months ago, and I were to say to any of you guys, hey, so basically you can't get a massage anywhere in Thailand, you'd be like, Mike, you need to focus, dude. I mean, think about it. It's what occurs there. And so think about it. I mean, it's one thing to shut a bunch, 90% or 80% or whatever the amount is of businesses down in the United States. I get it. Not allow the Chinese to come in, not allow, okay, that's crazy nuts. But in Bangkok right now, you can't get a massage, you can't go to a bar, you can't buy alcohol, you can't go to a nightclub. I mean, and as far as I know, you can't go to a temple, because unless they're having some sort of titration of people going into it, but this is a major crisis. See, that's why I love Bruce, because he is a master of the painfully obvious. Bruce is one of those cool guys that I've never met face to face, but he and I have chatted back and forth because we met on Facebook. We met on Facebook through, I think, Rike's channel maybe a while ago. iTruck1 says, do a couple of gun reviews. Some of those guys have 200 to 300 subs. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you know what I should do is I should start going to the red light districts and just walk with background music and then change the scene every 10 seconds. I'll tell you what, dude. What is it? It's a number, Bangkok 881 or something like that. I can't remember what it is, Bangkok 101. That guy has, you're right, a 250,000 subs, and he just walks up and down the street in Walking Street or on Beach Road or in Patong or in Nana Plaza or whatever. So, to that point, solid, my friend. Amazing. What's happening, Brian? Good to see you here. I believe when I sent you a message, I think I told you the correct time. So I apologize if this is early. Or not so much I apologize for it's early. I apologize if this is the incorrect time. So I definitely want to get back to the question of when do I think Thailand's going to open? So the airports, which closed basically last weekend for 2 days, those are now closed through the 18th, I think. I'm going to verify that date. I try and take notes for all this stuff as it sort of comes up, but here's the interesting thing about the alcohol sales in Bangkok is that I understand why they're doing it, right? And then, Brian, cool, you're watching on Pinterest. Thanks, buddy. Pinterest. Periscope. If you were watching on Pinterest, I'd have a little bit of a concern about you. I'm like, oh my God, how many recipes can that guy handle? Yeah, Bruce says, yes, I'm watching you evolve from the very start when you were giving gratitude attacks in San Diego. Yeah, I haven't done a gratitude attack in a while. I guess I sort of get motivated to do them as I walk around. Ron says, hey, mate, yes, you can go to any temple as far as I know. Went to one yesterday with my Thai girlfriend. Dude, that's so awesome. I miss doing that. It was great. Had it all to ourselves. The staff were still working there. Thank you, Ron. I really appreciate that. And Brian, I hope you have a lot of recipes. Yeah, and I should do that because to Bruce's point about the gratitude attacks, I don't know. I mean, I sit here inside and I don't really go outdoors. I was chatting with Gracie about this the other day and I said, you know what? This is ridiculous. Like, I've gotten really lazy. Like, I'm indoors. Like, I have not. Yesterday, I'll tell you what. Yesterday, I left my condo to walk down the hallway to take my garbage out. So, I mean, I'm not a hoarder, right? And I don't have like old newspapers laying all over the place. But I mean, I got to get out. I mean, this is absolutely crazy because we have this like little park basically in our complex. There's essentially 3 buildings. It's really 2, but there's one that's like an L, so it kind of looks like 2. And then there's another one, and then the pool shot that I think I've showed you guys before, right outside my balcony. And I'm leaning over my balcony yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this isn't so bad, In other words, for some reason, I'm able to throw the rose-colored glasses on amidst all this, and be like, okay, well, that's it could be worse, right? So when do I think Thailand's going to open? If I had to guess, I would say August 1st. Here's why. I think it was Brian, actually, who asked me a while ago, did I stock up on booze? Big Johnson, I think you're a new sub, man. That's really cool. Or at least you're a new watcher. So thank you for that. And if you would sub, I would buy you a smoothie. So I haven't stocked up on booze for 28 years. I don't drink. By choice, sort of. There was a little help from some other people that encouraged me to not keep drinking and using drugs. But have I stocked up in the past? Oh, boy. You betcha. If you guys have ever heard the phrase, 1 is too many and a million's not enough. Well, that was me. So, oi indeed, my friend. And here's why I say August 1st, because the sort of trajectory that I think that and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to apologize in advance if this silly thing freezes up on me. But again, as you guys know well enough, Mike is cheap, and I'm unwilling to spend money on a laptop. So, but what I want to do is I want to go to the John Hopkins site. I'll tell you what. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Google it, and with any luck, it won't freeze this silly PC up. But on the John Hopkins site, I review that, or I see that as relevant data. I believe that it is accurate. And again, we could debate the whole validity of the data that comes out of China. I get that. But look, at the end of the day, this is what we've got, right? This is the data that we have. So, excuse me. So as I go to the map, and I will then share it with you. How's that? The trajectory that I've seen for Thailand has been sub 100 for, I think, 3 days. I believe there were 54 new cases yesterday. I believe there were less than that the previous day. And the previous day, I think we were in the 70s or something like that. But obviously, we're going to check that out and validate it, aren't we? So, and here's why I'm bringing this up, not because I believe that I'm some really, really valid news reporter. But if I scroll down here on the left, and this needs to refresh, which basically seems to take up a lot of horsepower. But we're at 500,000 over there in the U.S., which is just amazing to me. I mean, look, again, we can debate the whole validity of the Chinese data, but let's say for the sake of argument, the Chinese are off. They're only reporting 10% of really what's going on. We still have more people infected in the United States, but maybe we're testing more. I don't know. Again, I don't live in China. I haven't lived in China. The data that I get on China is arguably, I guess, basically secondhand. Although I will report to you that the data that I do get from guys like C-Milk and Winston, from ADV China and that sort of thing, I believe that they have just so much experience over there that, I like to think that it's trustworthy. So, look, everything's got a little bit of bias on it, right? I mean, I don't think anyone can get rid of that. But nonetheless, I do believe that those guys seem to have a pretty clear understanding about what's going on over there. I just missed Thailand. Sorry. Let me make sure I get to it correctly here. So basically 2,500, just under 2,500 for Thailand cases. And total deaths worldwide looks like we're north of 100,000, which, of course, more than one is a drag, right? I get it. But if we go over to Thailand and we take a look at the fact that, they've right? But still, 33 deaths in Thailand. Over 1,000 people have recovered of the 2,500 that have been confirmed. But, again, I've been sort of focusing on this because I think it's really relevant to why I believe August 1st is that the trajectory is fairly far down. Now, I did have... again, this was in the right, but we were going down and then we spiked. So I had a friend of mine who's lived here, I want to say 5 years, and he's been pretty much doing business the whole time. And he has his own sort of twist on... He has his own sort of twist on Thailand. And, he and a lot of his other friends are also business guys, entrepreneurs here. And so they have their version of what's going on in Thailand. And I completely understand that as a foreigner, it is not easy, okay, to do business in Thailand. So I get that. So they have a little bit of negativity that's focused on it. And, I've always just sort of said to him, I said, look, dude, I mean, you guys can talk about how lame it is till you're blue in the face. At the end of the day, I'm basically over here because I live on vacation. So, I'm sorry that you're not having, the Mike's experience, but the reality is that you guys are doing different stuff. And for some reason, you still stay here. So one of them is from Australia. The other one's from the U.S. And I'm like, look, dude, it's not like they don't have entrepreneurs in the United States or Australia. So one could argue, if you don't friggin' like it, then just bail, bro. Gracie, awesome. You guys say hi to Gracie. I say hi to Gracie. Gracie is in the Philippines, and she is in the province. And we made the decision for her to go home basically the same Friday that they were going to, or the Friday right before they were going to close down all domestic travel out of Manila. And so I want to say, I think that's been a month. It maybe has not been, it's probably been a month. So that's a drag. Because if you guys know anything about the whole reason I'm here and living here is so like, hey, yeah, Gracie has a U.S. visa. She can come in and out of San Diego all day long amidst some molestation, basically, that she has to suffer from Customs and Border Patrol. Why are you here? Do you have any money? Why do blah, 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 They always let her through, but it's just such a hassle. Whereas in LAX, they're like, oh, cool, you have a visa. Have a great time. Hi, honey. So, yeah, a month, right? And so I was like, okay, when we first met, long before we got her the visa to come to the U.S., I said, look, we're going to get you a visa to come, or we're going to do what we can to get a visa to come to the U.S. But who knows whether... hey, so you know what? I just saw that. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I got all the comments in there on there. So, so to Roy's point, Hope Immigration will keep on extending the tourist visas. As of now, it's only until April 30th. That's true. The report that I read yesterday said that basically they're having a meeting scheduled for the cabinet to decide whether that's the case. I would submit that they're going to. I mean, if you think about historically, like what's gone on in Thailand and how, you could basically come over here on a tourist visa, and then, there were companies that set up the ability for you to go to the border for an hour, turn around and come back, which means you basically are re-entering Thailand, and then you get another X amount of days, depending upon what kind of passport you have or how you come, whether you go, in and out via plane or whatever. Well, and let's just say they cracked down on that, meaning that they went to the law and they said we should actually enforce this more because people are basically living over here full time as on tourist visas, and that's not cool. The world changed. There's more safety. Blah 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 blah. So I get it. I think it's fine that there are laws in place that Thailand wants to enforce. Okay. Now the way they go about that, one could argue, well, it's inefficient or whatever. But I'll tell you right now, my experience with immigration, absolutely top notch. So anyway, that's me. And greetings, Palmer. Good to see you, man. Off to eat a barbecue T-bone. Tricky in the rain. Absolutely. You absolutely need to focus. Good to see you, buddy. He's one of my buddies from San Diego. But if I were to guess, Roy, I would say that they are absolutely going to extend it. One thing I will say about the bureaucracy in Thailand is that things that sort of potentially apply to me, so like the extension of a tourist visa or, I don't know, how long you can, or what you need to open up a bank account. I mean, there are laws that, not necessarily laws, there are the enforcement of laws that you could argue were potentially in place for a long time, that turn around very quickly. So I can really appreciate that. And a lot of people will argue that it's in reaction to what, someone visible on social media posted, chastising them for their behavior. And then they're like, oh, crap, maybe we should change it. But so with that trajectory going that way, and with the world apparently decreasing, here's the other reason why I want to say August 1st. I just read this morning that they opened up Wuhan province for people to be able to leave. And so, as you might guess, right, a bunch of people, Chinese people, ran to the train station. And they made the statement, we've been locked down for 72, I believe. It could have been 74, but at the end of the day, let's say for the sake of argument, we've been locked down for 72 days. And we couldn't leave. And they're incredibly grateful now, So maybe they're going to do gratitude attack videos real soon over there from Wuhan province, but on Youku. But the point is that if you were to take like today, in about 90 days or so from now, is approximately mid-July, and so I would say that, considering the traditional number of people that will travel to Thailand in July is fairly low, one could argue that they would be like, look, even if we open it up for tourism right now, yes, we'll get the Koreans and we'll get the Chinese. And, but look, the Chinese travel year round, right? There's really no low season or high season for the Chinese. There is a higher season, but there's still like millions of Chinese that travel in July. In a normal year. So I would think that we could argue that, like, look, July, August, it's going to be, it's going to be allowed. Now, the way we travel, that's up for debate. Now, here's the other thing, is that what the Thai, I don't know if it's Thai government, but the reports I read in like Bangkok Post and that sort of thing, from what I believe to be at least reliable news sources, yeah, again, there's bias to everything and there's coloration and all that, but let's just say for the sake of argument, I trust Bangkok Post, and so therefore, so do you, okay? Obviously, there's some degree of lockdown in Thailand. And one of the things that, we talked about was, there's no booze for the next 10 days in Bangkok. No sales of alcohol in the next 10 days in Bangkok. Now, a couple things on that. The first is that it is basically 2 days before and about 3 or 4 days after, depending upon where you are and how they do it, around Songkran. And if you know anything about Songkran, you know that, yes, it's a water festival. It is a very exciting time, depending upon what city you're in. It can be very enjoyable, depending upon what you're into. And in the party areas, so let's say for the, Pattaya and Bangkok and Phuket, a lot of sales of alcohol. Also, a lot of deaths, right, based on driving and that sort of thing. So for them to make the choice, hey, so around Songkran, based on everything that's going on, let's get rid of the booze too in Bangkok. Okay, you could argue that that's understandable. I'm a little surprised they didn't do it in Pattaya, simply because you can't really go out in Pattaya anymore anyway. I mean, people do, of course. You can. You're not chained to your desk. But there's a curfew, right? So there's a curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. if you don't know. If you are, what I meant about Pattaya is on pause, is I meant that the other day they said, hey, so unless you're a resident, and I assume that the way you would prove that is, I don't know. Like, because I can tell you right now, like my ID, my Thai driver's license has the address of where Gracie and I lived in Cha'am. So, if they're like, hey, so show me on your ID that you live, here in Bangkok where you live, I'd be like, I got a key that's got the address on it. How's that, right? And I guess that would probably be enough. I mean, at the end of the day, they could also pull out their phone if they have this technology, and they could see the date that I reported to them the last time I did a 90-day report / TM28. And or the address that my landlord did a TM30 relative to. Now, if they're that sophisticated, then it can be like, yes, we agree. You're supposed to live where you're living. So you can't go in and out of Pattaya. Now, you've been able to, but they've been very much discouraging you going in and out of the province that you live in, right? So I actually live in the city of Bangkok, in the province of Bangkok. The province boundary is about, I want to say, 3 BTS stations that way, which is essentially basically southeast. If you're on the Sukhumvit line, it's like really, really lower Sukhumvit. I mean, I'm past on Nut, and a lot of people would argue that anytime you get past on Nut, you're in lower Sukhumvit. But, and they had army checkpoints there. So how many checkpoints are there in Thailand? 923. All right. Now, I don't know. I don't have a map that shows exactly where that is, right? But the point is that they're really cracking down on people that are out after 10 p.m. And, I don't really know the correlation between let's not let people go out. I mean, I can understand why they'd be enforcing, hey, you 17 people, you can't do that. I did read a report that it was after 10 p.m. and, they looked in the window of some people's apartment and there were a whole bunch of people getting together inside. And they it wasn't really clear from the article, they either fined them or they, had a terse discussion with them. I mean, I don't know whether they gave them a warning or not, but I'll tell you, it's interesting. The reports that I read about them holding people accountable, the majority of them are Thais. And, again, to the whole, do we trust China with their data? Sometimes in Thailand, it depends on the publication. But sometimes I would just read it and be like, God, it really sounds like they're just singling out, Farang for various behaviors. Now, I will tell you that my experience with Farang in Pattaya during Songkran, those are the people I want to stay away from. I mean, their behavior is just so ridiculous, right? I mean, it's just I feel like I'm at a sophomore's frat party, and it's the first time these guys found that if they consume this beverage, they feel different, and all of a sudden they can ask girls to dance for the first time. They're like, oh my God, but Roy says here in Pattaya, you can buy alcohol 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Very interesting. Roy, if you have any idea why 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. is shut off, I would love to know that. That seems crazy. I understand, like, okay, let's wait till the morning and then only allow them to do it at night, potentially, like, right before sunset, I guess. I don't know. But that's sort of interesting. But anyway, yeah, so the ban, I can understand why they picked those dates, and I'm mildly surprised that they haven't done it in Pattaya. But, you know, again, I believe that in Bangkok, because of the density, you could be like, look, it's one thing to, like, stop the alcohol sales in Pattaya, because then, you know, people will stop going to bars or whatever, but they've already closed the bars, right? So, you know, I would submit that just by doing that, it's almost the equivalent of saying, hey, we're not selling alcohol. Yeah, I mean, sure, of course, people go to 7-Eleven, people go to the grocery store. People live there. Expats live there. And no, not everyone lives on Walking Street, and not everyone lives on Beach Road. I totally get it. The majority of Pattaya does not live on Soi 6, okay? I know this. But it's been my impression that the majority of my buddies, vacationers, okay, people that aren't living there full time, the majority of those people go to the bar for alcohol. So anyway, I also found it interesting. I will tell you, again, to my prediction that, you know, August 1st, you're going to be able to cruise over here, and how it's going to change. Right now, Delta and American, and I'm sure other airlines, but again, this was like me taking notes yesterday and this morning. Delta and American are blocking out middle seats, which, of course, that's always sort of your fantasy, right? When you have like 3, 3, and 3, is that they're going to block out, you know, you have the middle seat to be able to have like some hip space. And I posted on Twitter, I was like, you know, because they, you know, every article that each company writes about themselves, right? They give you the opportunity to share that on social media so that they can get essentially free advertising, pats on the back. So I said, all right, fine. So I threw it up on Twitter and tagged them, if you will, hashtag Delta, at Delta. And I said, look, I think this is a great idea. I think this is fantastic. I'm a big fan of Delta. American, I have not had really good experience with American. And at the end of the day, they're incompetent. So if they go bankrupt, I won't be like, oh boy, you know, blinding flash of the obvious. But Delta, I really like their CEO, and I also like the fact that, as far as I know, it is the only airline, and I subscribe, right, to a whole bunch of airlines because, of course, I take multiple airlines when I cruise around. Southwest, depending upon where I'm going, Spirit in the United States, Delta internationally, which, of course, code share, you know, Korean Airlines, that sort of thing. Matthew, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Oh, you're on Periscope as well. See, it's kind of funny. I always say, you know what, I should probably just do Facebook and YouTube. But then, you know, today I got 2 folks coming from Periscope, so cool. Which I also believe is the equivalent of you being on Twitter, because I believe it's a code share technology. But the thing I like about Delta is that one of the reports that I get from Delta, you know, either, I don't know, it's absolutely quarterly, so it's kind of like getting a 10K, sorry. But you know, they give you the rundown of their finances. So, like, here's how we did. And then they also give you the on time and then the late departures and that sort of thing. And, you know, since I've started traveling significantly, I am less inclined to blame the airline for the fact that, like, my flight's late or whatever. You can always sort of tell a rookie traveler, again, this is Mike's opinion, you can always tell a rookie traveler when you're somewhere, especially domestically in the U.S., and the flight will be delayed, and they will be very clear on why. Weather, didn't have a gate, airport has an issue, mechanical failure of the physical aircraft. And you always get someone that just, you know, they complain. Oh, my God, I can't believe it. Like, let's say Southwest is so incompetent. I can't believe it. Every time I fly, you know, and they fly like twice a year, they're always late. They never get me there on time. I'm like, bro, I am more than happy to be delayed if they're going to fix this aircraft. If they are like, hey, so the weather between here and there, it could be dangerous. So we're either going to take longer to go around it if there's a delay while you're in the air, or we're not going to take off yet, or we simply can't take off because there's like fog at the destination. I mean, I've been in San Diego before and there's blue sky, and I'm going to Phoenix. And I got delayed like 2 hours because they're like, look, we can take off all day long, dude, but we can't land. Like, there's something going on in Phoenix. San Francisco is just notorious for that. Every time I booked like a 1-day business trip to San Francisco, I did that about twice. And then after that, I just said, look, this is ridiculous. I'm flying up the previous night. I'm going to have to stay in a hotel that costs 4 times what the plane ticket cost. But I'm not going to be late for my 9 a.m. meeting. Because I can't rely on it, which is, one could argue, right, Mike, that's why there's Oakland. And then you hop on the bus, and then you hop on BART, and then blam, you're in the city. But they give me their financial statements, and it's a real... I don't know. Look, they're not going to open up their books to me, right? The average customer. But I would submit to you that it's at least more transparent than other airlines that I interface. Let's say that. And for me, I like that. I like that about a business. I like looking at the leader and saying, how is he treating his, how he or she, because obviously Colleen was the CEO of Southwest for a while, who started out working at Southwest as the executive secretary, right, of one of the founders. So... Royce says in the UK, in the old days, they used to have times when pubs could open also. They used to have times when pubs could open, also Australia. So when I grew up in Massachusetts, they had what's called blue laws. And the blue referred to sort of blue collar workers in general. But it was a loose relation. But the point is that pretty much everything was closed on Sunday. And so I remember when, they changed that, right? And so then all of a sudden on Sunday, there were limited hours. So let's just say for the sake of argument, a mall was open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. when I grew up as a kid. And you couldn't go there on Sunday. And then all of a sudden they said, well, we're going to open on Sunday, but it's only like noon to 6. And it was like, it was like we just got an 8th day of the week. It was almost like every single day of our lives is now a 3-day weekend. Every single week of our lives is now a 3-day weekend. And I remember having that sort of response. And then, of course, 2 weeks go by, now you're used to it, right? So it's not like this shiny red ball. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday! Hello, Brian. Absolutely. That's what you do on Sunday, right? You watch football. Or, of course, curling, because my family's Canadian. You always watch curling on Sundays. No, not really. So, it's funny, too. I was reading the article about the Chinese lockdown and how the word draconian now seems to be popular. Draconian, social distancing, and if you're into finances, dead cat bounce. It seems like those are like the cool new ones. Like if you're able to say dead cat bounce, then you're like, oh, yeah, that guy knows the market. And if you know social distancing, then you've been alive and awake for the last 3 months. But draconian, apparently, if you... anyway, it's very interesting how... And this is from the Bangkok Post. And so, again, to the point of bias, they're writing the article about China, and I think that's where I read about about them opening up Wuhan. I believe they stated 1 million people, actually, are what all of a sudden decided to leave. And again, apparently, and I believe this because I've been to a couple, is that when you live in China, you make the statement, I live in a fairly small Chinese city if the population is less than 5 million. And, look, Greater San Diego, or not Greater San Diego, but San Diego County is about, 3 million people? And, it's certainly smaller than, it feels smaller. Even downtown where it's, arguably more dense than certainly where I lived in Coronado. But, there's other dense parts of San Diego, but, I consider it, a fairly small city. It's in the top 50 in the U.S. When I was working there, from a radio market perspective, it was like market 25. And then, Phoenix and St. Louis, Brian, right? And so we all sort of went neck and neck for anywhere from, 20 to 30. But for the most part, we were not a big market. We weren't, New York City, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, those other massive cities, Houston. Of course, Houston's really spread out, but so 1 million people decided, okay, so now that we can get out, we're going to get out. And why I'm sort of okay with that, if I'm going to judge it, right, is that if there wasn't this pandemic, and these people were all of a sudden let loose, sort of thing. Many of them travel with masks anyway, right? I'm not saying they all sort of wore surgical gloves, or nor are they going to, but I think they're pretty darn cautious about it. But again, I don't know. I will tell you that I've also read reports about the behaviors of the Chinese when they would come over to other countries, and I've never had firsthand experience with that. I've never seen them urinating in public or whatever. I've never seen anyone wash their feet in the sink, yet there's signs not to do that occasionally. And there's, I've heard stories about people saying, oh yeah, them people, they do that, or whatever, the blanket. And, I will make the blanket statement because of my experience with Gracie and I actually in line in many places like Hong Kong. They're loud. And the personal space, my own, sort of the distancing, the social distancing, that was not a Chinese thing. The thing that I probably resisted the most was the cutting in line behavior, because where I grew up and the way that I operate in other countries, and it seems like the other countries that I like, you don't do that. You queue up, and there is a social norm of, if this guy is in front of me waiting for something ahead of us, then to stand behind him as I'm doing is more appropriate than to me walking in front of him to get the item, the service, the end faster. That is what I'm used to. I'm used to queuing up and waiting your turn. And I have absolutely experienced some people not wanting to do that. Now, initially, I just laughed my ass off, basically, as I was living my ass off, as it turns out. Out loud, at them. Dude, what are you kidding me? And then, not the least of which is, it's okay, you're literally a foot smaller than I am, height and width. You are, if you turn sideways, I could blow you over. And you're cutting in front of me, And look, I'm not normally loud, but I can be louder. I have a voice that projects, and it also projects off the heads of the majority of those people, and so therefore there's kind of some skip to the audio, right? Kind of like the ionosphere. So if I want to sort of publicly shame someone, it's not something I don't know how to do. And what I will tell you is that the good news I've found is that when I have been in a crowd of, let's say for the sake of argument, Chinese people, Asian people, who knows? I don't know what their background was, but it seemed as though they were a tour group that I would potentially guess was from some city in China. Let's just throw that out there. And I have experienced one or two of them trying to cut in front of me. And the good news is that while they may think that's a social norm, they're also not a big fan of losing face. And, I'm sober, but I could still do obnoxious American, and I don't like to, because honestly, after I do it, I think I'm really awesome and cool, and maybe I'll smile at Gracie and we'll be like, yeah, oh, we got the best of that guy. And then I think to myself, geez, Mike, really? You didn't need to do that. You could have potentially just, grabbed the guy by the scruff of the neck and thrown him on the ground. No, I'm just kidding. You could have done something that had a lot more finesse, bro, than just throwing this guy, under the bus verbally. But anyway, Brian says, when you get time, watch a video in Thailand where they opened a buffet and you can guess what happened. Yeah. No, I get that. I assume that is a behavior based on scarcity and lack, especially as it relates to food, for people that are of a higher vintage than me, people that are older than me, that grew up in a time when, I could tell you, my experience in 1980 was that I was starting to sort of realize that everywhere I went with my parents, we were really lucky. We were blessed, and also that it took a lot of hard work from my dad, mainly. My mom had a full-time job too. It's not like she was like, just sitting around. I mean, she, went to work every day and had a hell of a commute compared to my dad. And then I also started realizing or believing that like I could do anything. And I don't believe I interpreted it this way, but it was sort of one of those things where given the right amount of resources, and there were a lot, I could basically do anything I wanted to. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of can't. And maybe this will turn into a little bit of a gratitude attack vlog. But yeah, I mean, I was like, look, if I have this set of tools, then I could probably repair this thing. If I have this reasonable amount of money, I can buy a piece of junk car and then I can fix it up. I can figure out how to do stuff. And if I get 2 or 3 of my buddies, then we could do this. God, I don't really know that. I know I dated it when we built it, but me and my buddy Mark Orvis, we built the radio station studio in my basement. And I actually don't remember. I know we were in high school. So I don't believe we had like the ability to drive. Mark was one of those guys that like kind of came in, his birthday was such that like he was older than the rest of us kids kind of thing. And so he got his license, I want to say, potentially in junior year. I didn't get my license until I was, oh boy, I think I was a senior. Maybe not. Maybe he got his in like sophomore year. Anyway, regardless, he had his license early. But I do believe the majority of the way that we built this studio was like, hey mom, hey dad, his parents, my parents, can you drive us to, Home Depot? At the time it was called Grossman's. But that was the sort of mild franchise that was in sort of my area of southern New England. And so, we would buy 2x4s and stuff. And so we built this radio studio. And then we like bought used stuff, or we like repurposed gear, or like we bought turntables for like $5 that were totally, and we put it together. And then we started like, broadcasting to a tape deck upstairs. So that was our audience base. But we had this, the point is that we were like, hey, let's do something. And then we did it. The other thing, too, is that, I found this. My mom saved this, thank God. It was literally a piece of paper, like maybe this big. And I used my mom's typewriter at the time. And I sent a letter to the Federal Communications Commission. And it said something to the effect of something that you would probably say, or try to be adult-like at like 14. To whom it may concern, or dear sir / madam, or whatever. I would like to open up a radio station, and can you please send me all the information that's necessary? Because it's not like you Googled stuff, dude, when I was like, 40 years ago, 35. And so, and they sent it back. They took the letter and they stapled it to, like, I believe the beginnings of an application to the Federal Communications Commission for a license to have an FM radio station in my hometown at the age of 14. Now, I don't know if I told them my age, but they could probably surmise from the content of the letter that either this guy's just doing this on a whim, is completely clueless, or it's some kid. But yeah, there was this belief, like I can do, with the right amount of resources, I can do anything. And then I started coming to less fortunate, in general, parts of the world. So I went to Jamaica. That was basically my first. I would go back and forth to Canada, and at the end of the day, it was just like going somewhere else. And along the way, there was this road that had like kiosks in it with men that asked my mom questions and didn't seem like they cared the answer, meaning the border. Who are you? Where are you going? We would stop, and then we would continue on with our journey. And that was my interface with Canada as a young boy. When I was I was living in San Diego by the time I was 20, and so my next international experience was basically walking across the border to Tijuana or going down to Ensenada. And it was like, okay, well, this is different, but, it's not like I needed a passport. And in fact, before 9/11, like the way I used to re-enter the United States, I would be in my truck, my car, or walking. And I would just look at the guy and I would just say, oh, yeah, U.S. citizen. And he'd be like, and he would ask me more questions about what was in my car. Are you bringing anything back? How long you been down there? It wasn't like, where do you live? Where are you going? Where do you work? What's your citizen? No, I mean, and there was this time, it was before 9/11. My girlfriend at the time and she was ridiculously American. I mean, she had bleach blonde hair and she was very white and she was like, very Southern California. So we would drive up in my truck and we would both sort of just look at the guy, and I would have my wallet nearby, I don't believe. And we would just both say, U.S. citizen, okay. And then we would go. But then, of course, you've heard the phrase, oh yeah, but 9/11 changed everything. Hey, stepping up. Good to see you, Juan. Glad you're here, man. No, you're not late. You're exactly when you're here when you're supposed to be, dude. So thanks. Appreciate it. And I also changed the time. I initially, and before I've done this at 9 a.m. So one could argue that you're early if you're used to the 9 a.m. gigs. So Roy says in the 60s, we had pirate radio broadcasts from ships in the North Sea. It was the only way to listen to pop music you had in the U.S. Yeah, I heard about that. And trust me, I grew up, when I started learning about pirate radio, I was like, oh, that is so cool. And I think, I don't know how old I was, but Christian Slater was in a movie, and I think it was either called Pirate Radio or something to that effect. In other words, it was about that, and it was about this kid who had a pirate radio station in his house, and he like strapped the transmitter on his back because the FCC was coming after him, and he like rode around on his bike and all this stuff, But he was a pirate DJ, right? And I was like, Superman, Aquaman, those guys were not my heroes. Wonder Woman, maybe, but if you had a pirate radio station, I wanted to be you. But my dad, who was an electrical engineer and was also smart, and is still smart, and was, very versed on the possible penalty of having a pirate radio station. We weren't having that in our house. And I get it, right? Because it's not like they're going to come to me with some big fine. They're going to be like, okay, parent of young, minor, here's the fine you owe us. We recommend that you, scold your son. But at the end of the day, you're the one that owes us the check, dude. And so, yeah, I can completely understand his bias behind that. One of the statistics that I also heard that would indicate to me that, again, by August, we could start traveling again. Now, I got another buddy who's pretty up on current news, and I tried Googling this, and I couldn't find anything relative to this. He sent me a message this morning, and I believe he said something to the effect of travel ban for the next 6 months. And, he's actually into Southeast Asia, so that could have been something that he heard about North Korea, for all I know. But he could have heard it about, well, I mean, if you look at some of the things that Singapore is doing, one could argue, yeah, Mike, it's 6 months. Like, I mean, again, I mentioned this in the expat group about how Singapore announced that they're closing Terminal 2. Let me be clear, not the entire Changi Airport. They're not closing the whole thing. They're closing Terminal 2. And mainly the reason is not, it's financial, right? It's like, look, dude, even if all of a sudden everything gets back, working, and, the U.S. government, the Treasury Department says, as it turns out, we really lowballed this. We're going to start sending every American a check for $1,000 every 6 days or something crazy like that. And the U.S. is like, okay, well, working just became a waste of my time. I'm going to start traveling. Even if that happens, and even if every U.S. citizen all of a sudden says, I should really get a passport and start traveling internationally, which will not happen for a long time. I don't think that travel is going to increase such that Singapore's like, yeah, we just can't handle it with just the one terminal. Terminal 1 is, it's a fine airport. It's able to certainly, satisfy my high maintenance needs all day long. If I had to venture to guess, I would say that the two main airports in Bangkok, the old one, as everyone calls it, Don Muang, which is sort of where, the lesser airlines will come in and out of. I mean, there's still, fine airlines that go in and out of there, but for the most part, AirAsia and, but Cebu Pacific, they fly out of Bangkok, to Suvarnabhumi, BKK, right, the big one, the newer one. If I'm them, I would probably close Don Muang. Now that said, that's also saying, okay, that means right now we're not going to accept any flights from these various carriers. Bruce may know something about this if he's still on, because he's very versed in the airline industry, travel industry. But, I don't know if they could just be like, okay, AirAsia, instead of flying into Don Muang, you come over here to Suvarnabhumi, and it's no big deal, and you either, you have to pay us the same amount of money or whatever. But I would guess it's less to fly in and out of Don Muang, and so that's why the low-cost carriers, ultra low-cost carriers like AirAsia, Tiger Air, Knock, they choose to go in and out of there, and they're not going in and out of Suvarnabhumi. But to the point of giving each American $1,000 every 5 minutes, the statistics I hear, the projections, that I read yesterday, unemployment will hit 15% and the GDP will go down by 34%. Yeah, I guess I see that. I mean, there's just nobody buying anything in the traditional way. There's a ton of people. I'm talking about the U.S. right now. There's a ton of people buying stuff online. I just saw a post from a buddy of mine that, I guess there's some sort of behavior that if you engage in, hey, Missy, good to see you. Greetings, Portland. There's some degree of behavior that if you do Amazon.com this way, then you can get your toilet paper, you can get your wipes, you can get your and so I guess, I don't know, maybe you're up at 3 a.m. when they restock the Amazon distribution centers or something, and all of a sudden they have, I don't know. But it seems like there's a scheme if you really want to be able to get lucky and get the products that you want from Amazon.com. But, so I get it. People are transitioning into that. There's some people that are using like food delivery services, using Amazon Fresh. But, the reports that I'm hearing, the experiences that I'm hearing from people, look, I ordered stuff from Costco.com all day long, but I didn't order grapes. It was dry goods, effectively. It was anything that, hey, look, if it takes you 2 days or 2 weeks to ship this to me, fine. It's not going to perish along the way. But the whole grocery delivery, food delivery, that's pretty new in the U.S. Unless you've been living in like New York City or another city like that, meaning a city where if the people that live there that are absolutely can afford it make the statement, oh yeah, I don't own a car, and that makes sense. If I were to, I live in San Diego and I don't have a car, well then that means all I do is live in San Diego. Like I don't go to Del Mar. Like you gotta look. Southern California not owning a car is that's a statement that someone who basically is out of work makes. Because I mean, again, you can buy a fine car for like $2,000 that'll get you from point A to point B, and right now gas is free. Oh my God, my buddy Ed, my business partner, he told me that super unleaded, because he has a I can't remember. It's a Nissan convertible 2-door. I believe the number is 360. It's either a 360 or a 380Z, but regardless. When I was a kid, they were 280s, 280Z, but not convertibles. Anyway, and they were Datsuns, not Nissans yet. The gas that he has to buy is, the super unleaded, so 92 octane, or I think maybe Sunoco, if they're still around, they sell 93. But for the most part, let's say, premium unleaded, right? $2.69. And Missy says it's nearly $3 in Portland. That's interesting, because I don't like to think. I believe, have experienced gas prices in San Diego are some of the highest in the country. Now, they're not Maui, okay? That is like premium gas. It is $1 more a gallon in Maui for gas than it is in San Diego, like right off the freeway. Now, he buys his gas at Costco, okay? So Costco, I believe the majority of the way that they price their fuel is they sort of look at the closest ARCOs, meaning the closest, like, lowest price gasoline stations that are from a chain. So they don't look at like a mom and pop. I don't believe they look at a 7-Eleven price, but I believe one of the metrics they use of how they price their gas. Hey, it's Unscripted. Yo, hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. Good to see you again. Thank you for coming back. So the way they price gas at the Costco's, at least this is what I've heard, is that they look for the fairly lowest price around and then they subtract like 10 cents. So if you're driving, like, for example, the one Costco that I would go to that was near USD, like right on Morena Boulevard there in San Diego, which if you don't know, a lot of people will still refer to that as Price Club, because before it was Costco, it was Price Club. And so I would buy gas there occasionally. There is a long line, but it goes very quickly. So it's not like you're going to waste time in there. But, you know, there is the usual experience, which is I drive into a gas station, and if there's not a pump that's empty, that's available for me right away, that seems really odd. Like, all of a sudden I'm at a real busy gas station if, like, there's not an empty pump for me as I drive into the lot, you know? So, you know, contrast that with the way that you normally buy gas on Costco, at Costco, and multiply that by maybe going there at like 2 p.m. on a Saturday, then, you know, you've got a line, but it goes very fast. So, you know, my experience is that it's about 10 to 20 cents less. So in San Diego, if gas is $2.69 for premium unleaded, then that means you're looking at about $2.50 for like the low test. Did I almost just say that? Regular unleaded. And in San Diego, I mean, if you want to compare that to the summer, because San Diego just raises the price of gasoline in the summer because we can, because it's a tourist area and the majority of people are coming there. Wow, $1.60 in Missouri. That's, although I will tell you, one says, yeah, gas is cheap even in California, $2.49 at Costco here now. Yeah, so that's regular unleaded, I assume, right? The prices you guys are giving, the one that's usually the lowest cost on the big, you know, marquee signs. When I moved to St. Louis when was I there? I was there from 94 to 95. I want to say gas was that price then. Missy says 2 weeks ago, bought some at $2.10 a gallon. That was 2 weeks ago. So Missy, is that about the lowest you've experienced? I mean, if gas was $2.10 in San Diego, there'd have to be a pandemic. That's just so crazy low. I do remember that there was this one gas station in La Mesa, mom and pop place, when I first moved out there. So that would have been about 2000. Oh, you know what? I think it might have been after 9/11 for some weird reason. They were really trying to get new customers. All of their gas, whether regular, medium, unleaded, super, that sort of thing, all of it was $1.99. I believe they were actually losing money on the fuel, because if you don't know, I mean, the markup on fuel at most gas stations is like nothing. They make money selling, you know, a 20-cent bag of potato chips for $1.99 inside. You know, it's not a lost leader for sure. You can have a gas station that just sells gas and they make money, but they don't make a lot. Regular unleaded. Okay, yeah. So that makes sense. I mean, it's you know, a heck of a lot less people driving, and now stepping out. Juan, you aren't potentially living there. Maybe you were staying there temporarily as you were moving. But as far as I know, you live on the base, as they say, right? If I'm wrong, then sorry. But the reason I bring that up is my experience with being able to buy things on, you know, if you're like MCRD or something like that, right? Or military bases, basically. Whether it's just for training or actual combat or that sort of thing, or just administrative. The PX, I believe, is how you refer to it. The prices of things there are incredibly low. I also believe that one of the reasons is, yeah, it's low, but it's also low because I don't believe you pay taxes, sales tax. I don't know that for sure. But I know that I have friends that I work with, and instead of like even going to Costco or going to, you know, a giant Vons or something in San Diego, and I'm a face toucher, I'm going to wash my hands. They go to the Navy Exchange because it's cheaper there. Down in let's see, National City, San Diego. So yeah, the airports are pretty much closed to commercial traffic through April 18th. The emails that I've been getting from the State Department, if you've been on a couple of my other live streams, you know that I will occasionally at this time, when I start talking about that, I'll bring up a browser and we'll look at the email that they've sent me, and pretty much it hasn't changed. I'm sorry, here's what changes. Instead of being in like regular font, then they would change it to bold. And then they changed the bold to red bold. And so their new red bold is basically, look, there is no expatriation that we are planning East Lake Chula Vista. Okay, yeah. Well, actually, the prices for fuel in Chula Vista were normally cheaper than certainly where I was living. I believe that Coronado is some of the highest priced gas in the San Diego area. I can tell you right now that after driving it would take me 10 minutes to drive all the way down the Strand to Imperial Beach, if you know anything about the geography of San Diego or Coronado. Just so you know, Coronado technically is not an island. It's an isthmus because basically it extends all the way from Imperial Beach all the way up, and then there's Coronado Island. It used to be an island years ago. But additionally, North Island, which is basically the base, the Naval Air Base, the Marines do some work there, but for the most part, it's Naval Air Station, North Island. There's tons of civilians that work there too. The real estate that takes up on Coronado is about almost 3 times the amount of sort of living space that's on Coronado, if you don't include Coronado Cays, if you just look at like the village. Stepping out says, yeah, the base Navy Exchange commissary, tax-free, and our preferred places to shop. We still have to pay state taxes at the base gas pump. Yeah, I mean, I guess otherwise the freeways wouldn't get paid for, right? If you guys know anything about California, and I don't know whether they do this in other states, I've never really looked, but like at the pump, they give you there's a little sticker, right? And it tells you like the percentage of the price that you're paying, like what the gas actually costs, what the state taxes are, what the transportation taxes are. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 different taxes. And I believe in all, I think it's 25% the taxes that get levied on 1 gallon of fuel, or on any amount of fuel, 25% in California. Not totally sure, but I can tell you that it's higher than in Massachusetts, because those are pretty much the only states where I actually stand there and spend detention units looking at the gas pump, just because I needed to in Southern Cali, in San Diego. And then, you know, usually when I'm back home in the summer, I'm on vacation, so I like look at everything. I'm like, that's cool. I don't really have to be anywhere right now. Yeah, let me read all this documentation about the gasoline distribution system. Nerd. The real interesting thing about travel, I mean, I guess that's kind of the theme. I mean, obviously the title of this, you know, just to sort of say, okay, what am I going to start to talk about, was the booze ban in Bangkok, because, you know, and of course I was really into the alliteration. Aren't I incredibly talented? Bangkok booze ban. Pattaya pushes pause. Oh, dude, I mean, I'm like the walking Boston Globe. Amazing right here. Yeah, those are big, and to the point of the whole, you know, booze ban in Bangkok. Again, it's just, I mean, I never, ever in my life thought I would hear news reports that people would be like, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense, that involve no alcohol in Bangkok, no massage in Bangkok, and no bars or restaurants in Bangkok. That's just amazing to me. But to the delivery thing, back, you know, where I grew up, I mean, there's Uber everywhere, right? I mean, because it's Uber. And then there's Lyft, which is my preferred ride-sharing solution. Rick says, just wanted to say hi, buddy. Saw you were streaming, but we're busy playing with our boys. Good for you. Hope you're enjoying life, staying healthy and safe. Thumbs up. I absolutely am. Rick, great to see you, man. Rick is a really, really great guy. He's one of those guys that when I'm in a room with Rick, he's traditionally the smartest guy in the room. And I love being around people like that because I'm not unintelligent. But when I can be around someone who knows more, like in other words, they just have like more retention of knowledge, but also has a skill set and an intelligence, right? And the ability to have logical discussions without a whole lot of emotion, because I throw a lot of emotion into the things that I talk about, especially if I'm passionate about it, and especially if I'm right. then there's a little bit of animation. Arms start waving. I probably touch my face more, and then of course I have to wash. But yeah, Rick's a brilliant guy and a great guy too. Just ready anyway. So he's probably not listening, but anyway, I'm sure he gets that kind of praise from his boys. So that's kind of cool. Rick is anyway. I'll tell you what. Here's what's cool about Rick and other people like Rick. I met Rick because of the profession that I was in, and when you're in IT, at least 51% of the people that you run into are pretty introverted, and I'm talking about the technologists right now, not the salespeople, not necessarily the CEOs and leaders. Let's say for the people that actually manipulate the technology and aren't just focused on sales. People that in a meeting would never make the statement, "Oh yeah, but I'm just a dumb sales guy. Let me talk to the engineers." I hate when people say that. Listen, salespeople say that. I'm like, okay, well, I have no use for you. The fact that your company is not willing to basically hire someone who has some technical competence to try and sell me this $1 million bucket of stuff, of ones and zeros, I got no use for you. The culture of your company is such that they don't believe in providing technical excellence to the customer. I'm moving on because there's 9 other people lined up behind you in this conference room, dude, that want to give me a presentation that potentially doesn't involve PowerPoint, and they want my money too, and they're willing to work for it. So I encourage anyone who's in IT sales, don't think that self-deprecation during a presentation on your technical competence is going to get you any more money in your pocket. It may, but I would submit it's a silly way to try and sell, because at the end of the day, you're not selling stuff, you're selling yourself. So that's Mike's theory. But the fact that you can be like, really calm and be able to get the data out there, and Rick has been a huge solution. Rick works at Dell Technologies, and that's on his Facebook, so it's not like it's just, trust me, he's not doing it because it's clandestine. Or he's not doing it as part of his 007 career. And he's very well respected, and he works for a division of Dell Technologies. It is very valuable and deals with customers that add a lot of value. So, it's one thing to like sell technology to where I used to work, University of San Diego. So that's cool. You're helping the university, you're helping brilliant minds, and you're helping our infrastructure, and you're giving us something reliable. Okay, great. But, when you're supporting someone like American Express, or PayPal, or Visa, okay, let's just take those 3 as an example. If the computers, meaning the converged infrastructure, if the stuff that they sell, if the stuff that they buy has a tendency to go offline and is unreliable, well, then that directly affects you and me, like every you and me. Like if you can't swipe your credit card effectively, in air quotes, meaning you can't use it online, or there can't be a, credit card transaction, then, you might as well have just gone bankrupt if you're one of those companies. It's just, if your computers don't work, dude, game over. And so Rick supports those kinds of customers that add global value, which then in turn means Rick adds global value. He also adds local value by being a really great dad and a really awesome husband. So anyway, he's on Facebook, so you can't like right mouse click on his dots and say check out channel. But anyway, I just want to throw that out there because I think it's neat that I get to have people like that in my life through no fault of my own, really. Because I sometimes I'm sure I'm quite off-putting to introverts. Anyway, so what's going to happen over the next, let's say for the sake of argument, the next 19 days. So let's look out between now and April 30th. Jorgen says, hey, here is some Bangkok trivia. What was Central World Mall's original name? That's a great question. If you guys don't know, that is basically over I mean, it's kind of a walk, regardless of where you get off on what BTS line. But it's at the end of the day, it's over near Siam, basically. I don't know the name of the street that it's on, but Central World is enormous. It's one of Bangkok's many gigantic malls. The short answer to your question, and I actually, if anyone else knows this, that would be really cool. I don't know how many people I got on. Oh, I guess I got 11 on 11 on YouTube, and then I got a few folks on Facebook. And let me actually check the expat groups to see if anyone made a comment that I need to look at on the expats group. Let me have a look there. But Central World, I mean, I know it's been Central, right? The original name was World Trade Center. Interesting. I definitely did not know that. I mean, that is... let me get down to this group here for a second. I'll just take 1 second here on my laptop just to make sure I don't miss anybody. But yeah, World Trade Center, that's interesting. Now, let me ask you this. Were there other Centrals? Because Central is a company, right? So there's Central World, there's Central Festival. And so it's the company. And so was that their first one? I don't believe so. I think that they were... I believe that an older, because Siam Paragon is, kind of old in the sense that there's, okay, so no comments on there, cool. In the sense that there is, it's older than other malls. I mean, if you guys ever get the chance to come over to Bangkok, even if you don't like shopping, you don't like window shopping, you don't like malls necessarily. They changed it after 9/11. Yeah, I absolutely get that. That's not a dumb idea, right? I'm sure that if there were any other buildings in the world that were called Pentagon, they probably changed that too. So, Central Airport in Chiang Mai. I didn't know that. So is that kind of around like the Terminal 21 theme? I mean, did they like really go with the airport, or is the actual airport, instead of being like Suvarnabhumi or Don Mueang, like the name of the Chiang Mai airport is Central because they sponsor it so much? I don't know that. I've never been to Chiang Mai. I'm going to go to Chiang Mai. I was going to go to Chiang Mai. Actually, Gracie and I were separated simply because she needed to go home and take care of a whole lot of business stuff. This is long before we even considered wearing masks in public, around January, February. And so she went home to do all that, and she was going to be home for about 3 weeks and then come back here, and then did come back here. Shortly after I signed the lease on this, we actually saw this place and basically agreed to the lease together. But then she cruised home, and in that time, I thought, okay, well, I'm by myself, and I'm gonna just like see if I can backpack. So what I'll do is I'll take the train, right? I'll take the train down to Cha Am maybe and go see JC. But he and Nat were still in Vietnam at the time. And I'm like, and then I think I want to say it was either Brian or somebody else on here. Maybe it was Brian, made the recommendation. Hey, dude, you should like take the train up to Chiang Mai. Or maybe Brian was in Chiang Mai and he was going to be up there for a little bit, and we were going to get up there, and I was going to get up there, and we were going to hang out. So I apologize if I don't remember the chronology of that. However, just close to the airport. Okay. That makes sense. The trains here are really cool. I really dig them. And I'm going to be really excited to get back to that. So, between now and April 30th, I basically figure I got nothing going on but that. But what I tell you, here's what I'm going to do. I'm basically an hour and 22 minutes in. I got about another 8 minutes that I wanted to do this. Chiang Mai is a great city. Yeah, I have heard that. And I can tell you right now, I am not a city guy at all. Like, I would not want to live in even Boston, even like sort of the outskirts of the city, not like the suburbs, but like I wouldn't particularly want to live in like Beacon Hill or anything. I'm just not a city guy. But I love Bangkok. I love it here as far as a big city. Now, that doesn't mean that I've completely said, I'm never going to a beach again in my life. Trust me, I miss the beach big time, and I prefer the beach. I wish I could go to the beach right now. I would literally, if I could, if it cost me $100 to I would go to the beach right now. Also because, I'm being indoors this whole month, I've got like literally no expenses, so I've got an extra $100. But in any case, you get the point. But yeah, it would be a pain to go, it would be a pain to get back, and the enjoyment factor wouldn't be there. Gracie's not here, so it's like, God, but I miss the beach. I miss just sitting at the beach and staring at my feet. I can go to the beach and I can sit at the beach and stare at the waves and listen to that whoosh, whoosh over and over again for an unlimited amount of time. Meaning that there has never been an amount of time that I've done that where I'm like, okay, this is enough. I should leave now. No, it's always been like, I got to leave to go to the restroom, or I got to leave to go to my next point of call, or I got to go to the next time that Gracie and I need to go somewhere, or our vacation is ending and we need to leave. I could stay at the beach and listen to the waves and watch them for an unlimited amount of time. That and bonfires. For some reason, I can sit at a bonfire, and I prefer them when they're on the beach. But even if they're like in the woods, I can stare at bonfires for hours too. I don't know why those two things, fire and water, maybe, I don't know. But, Stefan out says, smash the like button. Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it. And just so you know, even if you smash the dislike button, the YouTubers, we still get some kind of credit for that because that means you watched. What I'm really looking forward to, and I'm already at 798, I think I checked this morning. So if any of you haven't subbed and you want to sub, that would be really cool. I really appreciate it. And also subscribe to Steppin' Out. He and I actually have about the same amount of subscribers. However, I mentioned this on the last one, and I believe this is quite accurate, is that one of the reasons that I don't have a lot of subs, or that I don't have a lot of people that even know about my channel, is because the word ass is in it. And I believe that there are many algorithms out there that teeter on whether the word ass is appropriate or whether it is adult. I mean, trust me, I don't check the radio button that says, oh yeah, this broadcast is for children, just because, I'm not adding any value to them. I'm not saying that I'm adult or inappropriate, really, because my mom watches these videos, so I'm not going to use a whole lot of foul language. But Steven out says, I can do the same, my friend. I can sit at the beach for hours with a cup of coffee. Totally. And, I'm an only child, okay? So, alone time for me is almost like my default setting. It's almost as important to me as being with family is to a Filipino. Because I've heard, that family is really important for Thai people or whatever, and I've sort of experienced Thai families, and I've lived in a Thai village for a short period of time, and I've seen the sort of family unit, and I've seen their allegiance to the family. I get that. But I believe my experience, and there may be other cultures that do this, but boy, the Filipinos, that's a family. I mean, there's none of this, think twice stuff about, supporting the family. Especially if you love and respect your family members. I mean, there's always that, tension, right? Between any human at some point in their lives, right? I mean, there's been times where, trust me, I've been a complete jerk to Gracie. One of them that I can reflect back on right now is something that Facebook reminded me of, which was 3 years ago. We were in the hospital in Palawan. And when I'm cranky and I'm sick and I am in the hospital and I am not getting what I want and getting it my way in a fast amount of time, even for my loved ones that are truly saving my life at the time, I can be unpleasant and a bit short with them. And gratefully, I was keenly aware that I was being a bad partner. Because we're a team. This is Team Mackie, and if you don't know, it's Mackie because the M part is Mary, because that's Gracie's first legal name, Mary Grace. I just call her Gracie, and then my nickname is Mickey. So you put Mary and Mickey together, and you get Mackie. So we are Team Mackie. It is a team effort, this life thing, and we are living it to the fullest. And I hope you too have a teammate that you're doing the same with. And Seven Out says, family is super important in the Thai community too. I know being married to a Thai for 9 years, but that's one of the things I love about Thailand. Absolutely, dude. Trust me. I'm not saying that up until I met people and met families from the Philippines, Thailand was at the top because I've had like Mexican businesses and relationships down there with, and I'll tell you right now, one of the best ways to do a contract in Mexico is to meet with traditionally the man, right, who's in charge of like whatever service or company or whatever that you're going to have. I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't discount any woman that's but the point is that it's much more common. So when I say, so you meet with a guy, it's a lot more accurate than saying guy or gal. But the point is that, I would meet with a guy and we would be working on a project together and we would talk about it. And what was really odd for me at my first meetings about my business in Mexico was that we would talk about something and I would leave that meeting thinking, okay, we're done. We've come to a conclusion. We know what we're going to do. The future's okay. Wait. And then we would have another meeting, potentially with more business partners, but sometimes not. Sometimes it would just be me and him again talking about what I referred to as the exact same thing again. And we would do that. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, at first I thought, this guy like not take any notes? Like, what is he? Does he have amnesia? Was this Groundhog Day for him? And so we would do that. But then what I realized, and I thought this was just sort of nice, but it turned out to be the biggest indicator of, oh boy, this business deal is going to go really great. He invited me into his home where his wife, it's pretty traditional, some of these families. His wife made dinner for us. And sometimes the kids would be at the table, sometimes they wouldn't be. But I would go to this business, this colleague relationship that we were building, would go to his house and eat dinner. And then traditionally afterwards, it was pretty traditional. Like afterwards, like the women would like go into the kitchen, and then the men would like. It was almost ridiculous. I felt like I was like watching a rerun of Mad Men or something. I was like this is just a little weird, dude. He's not being inappropriate. It's not like the men are like not being cordial and or supportive or loving to the women, but it was very. The women do this, the men do this. I was like, God, this is weird. And I'm talking like 2004, okay, in Ensenada. Anyway, so then me and Enrique go out on the back porch. And, for him, it was traditionally a time to have like a scotch or something like this. And I don't drink. So he's like, oh, okay, well, I won't drink it for you. Okay, fine, whatever. So we're having like Coca Light. And we're talking, and we talked about the business deal again, but in a different way, such that I didn't find it was weird. I just thought, man, thanks a lot, dude. Because, there's nothing I like more than probably, free food or free anything. Free money is good too. So we're talking about the business deal, and then we shook hands. And I'll tell you something. If I could give any non-Mexican who doesn't know of this behavior, that is an entrepreneur that is going into not a gigantic and not a multinational Mexican company, if you're going to start partnering with people in Mexico, meeting, second, third, whatever. So you have the first meeting and you talk about whatever, and you get invited to that person's home and have dinner, and then you talk about that deal, and then you shake hands on it. Dude, most trustworthy business relationships I've ever had. The only people, I'm talking 100%, only people to ever screw me in Mexico were gringos that lived in Mexico. I had always been treated very well, and incredibly trustworthy relationships I had with business guys. In fact, the way that I had to end a very disappointing relationship with a gringa, with a lady who was trying to sell me real estate that she didn't own, that was basically, she was a swindler and a scammer. The way that I, responded to that was with the help of the Mexicans, the Mexican attorney. I had a great Mexican attorney and stuff, but the point is that I love the ability to do that. Now, I didn't know that's what was happening at the time. So it wasn't like I sought that out as the right solution, but I was just amazed at how successful. And I was not the first. I had like 9 or 10 others after that. And it was just like awesome. And sometimes it was just like, the guy down the street, and we would have a deal on how often he would bring me water, or how often he would clean my house, or how often he and his crew would like do work for me. But yeah, the handshake deal, that was amazing. Jorgen said she's been married for 17 years, married in Thailand, and it has been great. That is so awesome to hear. I don't care where you got married or, how, but, it's awesome to hear successes about Thai marriages, because, my God, you can certainly find YouTube videos or, published reports of relationships that went bad in Thailand, So I love hearing stuff like that. Ditto, my friend. It's been great year, all 9 years of our marriage too. That's awesome, guys. I'm totally stoked to hear that. And I can tell you right now that Gracie and I are 4 years in, and we're not married legally, but I can tell you it's not like it's not like I'm looking for the next one. I mean, she's it, right? So, the whole marriage thing. I mean, I'm not going to. I have my own ideas and my own vision of marriage that is sadly grossly tainted because of the experiences I've had with very, very good friends in Southern California, because it's more than 51%. Like, there is a higher likelihood you will get divorced after getting married than stay married. Dude. And it's always a legal transaction, and it's always monetary, and it's always gut-wrenching, and it's always... I don't know. I'm sure everybody on this thing knows at least someone that was very close to them or whatever who got divorced. Probably a guy who's your friend, but it could be women too. And I would submit that a crazy phrase that you never thought you'd hear coming out of your buddy or the soon-to-be divorced person's mouth is, man, I'm seeing a side of this person I didn't even know existed. And so I have no... I cannot imagine that Gracie would ever be as anything other than as amazing as she is in the last 4 years that I've known her. And I'm not saying that I'm against marriage because of that, but unfortunately, the whole marriage thing, I mean, it just seems so transactional. It seems to have nothing to do with heart any longer. I'm also soured on it because I've DJ'd, I mentioned this in another live stream, I've DJ'd about 100 weddings. So, and I can tell you right now that at least 50% of them were second time for them. In fact, some of the coolest weddings I've ever DJ'd were people that had been, both of the people, each of the person in part of the team, in the couple, had been married either 2 or maybe even 3 times. And they were just like, okay, look, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. It's going to be friends. It's going to be, and it just like removes all of the typical ceremony that, there's traditionally family there. That doesn't get ripped out of the project plan. But they're like, now look, we're not going to do some bouquet, garter toss, cake cutting crap. Like, we've got a videographer, we've got a photographer, we've got you as the DJ. We're going to do these things. It's going to be a massive celebration of life kind of thing. It's almost like the label that you put on someone's funeral when you don't want everyone to like show up and get bummed, celebration of life, right? Stepping Out says, I believe you can have bad marriages in every country. Absolutely. Everyone's eligible for that. There are good women and bad women, good stories and bad stories for every country. And there are good guys and bad guys. I will tell you that too. But we're guys. And so to say, hey, yeah, good women, bad women. Sure. Good people, bad people. Good scenarios, bad scenarios. Non-pandemics and global pandemics. Jorgen says, true story. I married the first girl I met in Thailand on my first trip. Dude, you need to print a t-shirt up and wear that around and walk down Beach Road in Pattaya. And I want to follow you with a camera and I want to watch the guys' reactions. That's awesome. That's totally awesome. One could say that you're lucky, but I would argue that, so am I. The only reason that I met Gracie is sheer luck, right? I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if you were like, okay, so at 17, this is going to happen, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to meet, Nan, right, in Thailand, right? And I'm going to, this is going to be the relationship. Or 17 years ago, Jorgen's like, okay, I'm showing up. Whatever the first woman that I meet is, bam, she's going to be no, right? You get, the universe presents you, with this opportunity. And, it sounds like at least 3 of us are pretty damn grateful that happened, you know? So anyway, guys, I tell you what, it is 9:38. My 7:30 p.m. California meeting has started. It's 8 hours, or it is 8 minutes in. I love you guys. I'm honored that you swung by, and I'll do another one real soon because I love this. I love this interaction, and I really like just talking with you guys about kind of like what's on your mind or what's going on. And it's, you know, I think it's painfully obvious, hopefully, to all of you, that it is not a requirement that we talk about COVID-19 or the coronavirus or the pandemic or whatever. It's interesting, and I got nothing against it. But I will submit to you that it's not a requirement. Absolutely not a requirement. So anyway, with that said, I do want to thank you guys for showing up. So I obviously want to say, Caesar, awesome, buddy. And then there are stunning babes that never find a mate. Absolutely. How many times have you experienced meeting a woman who is incredibly attractive, and you say to yourself, that's so weird. Like, why is this girl, why doesn't she have a mate? You know, and there's a couple reasons, right? Like, she's too attractive. Saving us from utter boredom. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it's the Jesus phone. Exactly. Yeah, it's not the Jesus handle. It's not the oh crap handle, right? So anyway, 7 out, take care. Juan, thank you so much. Mike, always good to see you, buddy. Mike G is, other than my dad, he and my other buddy Bill, he is one of the 3 men in my life that I love the most that has saved my life. So anyway, it's Mike's from livemyassoff.com saying, I hope you're living the dream. And smash the like button. Absolutely. Please subscribe. My ego is quite fragile, and it would be quite nice, actually, if you guys would subscribe. What bothers me is that... Thanks, Caesar. Is that if I put a new window here, I can't see all of the people that commented. So that's really a bummer. So Robin, thank you very much. Caesar, thank you for coming back. And I tell you what, guys, I'll do it in 2 days. How's that? Because that'll be Monday morning here, your Sunday night. You can let me know how your weekend was. It's Mike's from livemyassoff.com saying, I hope you're living the dream. Because if you're not, put on a pair of glasses that anyone in your life could label as rose-colored glasses. Because remember, a phrase that wouldn't kill you to adopt is, what's the best thing that's going to happen? And with that, I love you guys. Ciao.